Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bengal Tiger podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again is Shea Dixon on this Friday afternoon before LSU and Florida. Shea, how are you doing today?
Doing well. A little bit of a rainy day in Baton Rouge.
I was
Supposed
gonna
to rain
say,
tomorrow as well. So keep an eye on that for folks who are traveling in or going to be out and about on Saturday. Hopefully, it
yeah,
will not be too bad. Holds off, and the game is not a wet one. And it's the '03 national championship team reunion. So all those guys will be back in town Friday night. They're having a little party, and then they'll be out of the game on Saturday and obviously recognized then. But yeah, 20 years since the Nick Saban '03 led a team that I was all in. That was my year that I came to LSU after that, and Saban left me after just one season. He bailed, and I rode it out with Les Miles. So
that was your freshman year.
that was my freshman year.
Wow,
So
that's a
time flies.
heck, it's a heck of a first year.
Time
Um,
flies.
yeah. So LSU Florida. This was a game that obviously we've previewed on this site, so I'll check out all the content there. We'll have by the time you're listening to this, our final predictions will be up. We will cover our two predictions at the end of this podcast. But this is an interesting game. It's two teams coming off a loss. Obviously, LSU loses at Alabama 42-28. Florida loses at home to Arkansas 39-36 in a game that, I mean, to be frank, you can't really lose that game. Florida is a 5-win team. Needed that sixth win to lock up bowl eligibility. Would have been big. Now the last three games they have LSU on. I think it's LSU on the road, Missouri on the road, and Florida, Florida State, which is, I don't know where that is, if that's at home or not, or if that's neutral. Last year it was at Florida State, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless,
Maybe
three
yeah.
three top 15 teams or so in the country, and that's going to be a really hard stretch for them. So with that in mind, Jayden Daniels, I think we start with him. His status, his availability. Brian Kelly came out yesterday, started the press conference without even being prompted. Just said Jayden Daniels went through practice today. He'll be evaluated again, but I would say he's probable. And that was good news. That was good news. We can talk about the offense as a whole or whatever later, but Jayden Daniels, obviously, if nothing else, just for his Heisman campaign, being back in Tiger Stadium, everything, it's good to get him
Winning.
back. Yes, winning as well. Yes, winning as well. But yeah, it's good to have him back in the lineup.
I thought that was the biggest news of the week. I mean, if you keep JD5 out there, you've got a chance in every single game you play. Obviously, they're going to be favored in these final three games, all at home against Florida, Georgia State, and A&M. None of them are ranked teams, and obviously Florida and A&M have had some struggles. But this is about Florida and Matty B. They're a team that is sitting at, oh boy, on the year 5-4. I know they're 500 in the SEC. Billy Napier in year two of his program is trying to get things on the right track, and they've had some stumbles. I don't know where you want to start. I should add though that Daniels will play. Logan Diggs, the starting running back, will
Yes.
not. He has been downgraded to doubtful, and he kind of looked a little banged up against Bama. Then they said it was an upper body injury. He took it easy this week, no contact, and now it doesn't look like he'll play. They've got 8 running backs on roster, so you turn to the next one and see where you go. I think maybe a little bit of a storyline that you wrinkle into that is that, oh, well, it doesn't matter because Jayden can run. Well, how much do you want Jayden running when he's coming off of concussion protocol and all of that? So does this become a game where Josh Williams and Emory and Caleb Jackson and all those guys step up as running backs? But they can always throw the football, and they do it very well. So I don't know where you want to start, but
Yeah,
we can get it rolling.
Yeah, we can start with LSU's offense versus Florida's defense. Florida's defense to this point in the year. First of all, on their injury front, Shamar James, inside linebacker for them, out for the year. I believe it was an injury sustained against Georgia 2 weeks ago, and then didn't play last week against Arkansas, and he's out for the year. Their leading tackler there. So that's a hole on the defense. I think we saw it against Arkansas. If you go back and watch that game, Arkansas was very comfortable. KJ Jefferson was very comfortable moving the ball. And so I go into this game, and I think, and even the Florida guys that I did the podcast with, were like, LSU might put up 60 in this game. That's what they were saying. Obviously, that's lofty expectations. I don't think 60 is going to happen, but if you're an LSU offense with Jayden Daniels healthy, and even with Logan Diggs out, this should be a game where you're getting into probably the 40s, high 30s at the very least, because this is going to be one of the bottom tier defenses you'll have played. I'm trying to think. I mean, obviously A&M's better. I mean, I'd put Missouri over this defense. I don't know about Ole Miss, somewhere in that range, but yeah, this is a game where, in theory, your offensive line should be able to hold up. They don't have much to them in the back end. I think LSU's offense sets up very nicely for another big Jayden Daniels game, honestly. Another big game with his legs. KJ Jefferson ran for over 92 yards last week. I think Daniels gets to that number this week if he is himself, and the receivers should have no problems getting open. So I look at this as a prime week for LSU to bounce back and put up 40 points.
This is a Florida defense, Matty B, that right now, total defense wise, is giving up about 350 yards a game. LSU's defense is one of the worst in the country to date. Statistically, they give up 400. So about a 50-yard defense there. That puts Florida well below the middle of the pack in the SEC. As we noted, not a great defense. It's funny that, and maybe it's just coming off a loss to Arkansas, whatever, but a number of Florida beat writers, both at On3 and that I've worked with over the years, have texted me this week and were like 70-10 or whatever. I was like, guys, it can't be that bad. They're like, oh, it's bad. So I don't think there's a lot of confidence coming out of Gainesville, and maybe that has a bit to do with not coming out and having a big year when you have, like, Graham Mertz has played pretty well and you still aren't winning games that you should. But I would imagine that the Arkansas loss in overtime was pretty deflating for this team.
Yeah, I like you said, I can't see it being a 40-point blowout. I just think there's too much talent on this Florida team. And we'll get to the other side of the ball. I think Florida has a potential to score the ball, which we'll get to in a second. But Prince Yu, who I cannot pronounce his last name, Umanelen or whatever it is.
Beast.
Yeah, he's awesome. I think he's at 10.5 tackles for loss this year. He's someone they're going to have to account for. I do think there's a potential for Florida to try to be aggressive, try to get some sacks. They are kind of a boomer bust type defense anyways. So it'll be interesting if they can, maybe create some disruption there. But between him, and then I think the rest of their defensive line is probably their strength, but then you get to the back end and it's kind of just holes
Yeah.
everywhere. I
They've
had a
only, I mean,
stat.
they've only had 3 picks all year. It's not a team that's forcing a ton of turnovers on you or anything of that nature in the
I mean,
defensive backfield.
yeah, last 3 games have allowed 39, 43, 39, and then if you go back to even before the Vanderbilt game where they held Vanderbilt to 14 points, credit to them, but then they allowed 33 to Kentucky in a loss. So it's like the defensive struggles have stacked up in SEC play, and now you're playing the best defense in the SEC or best offense in the SEC, and that's why you get beat writers and fans talking to LSU fans like, yeah, this is going to be ugly. But yeah, I think the LSU offense should be set up fine. I don't know who, like, we'll get to our game balls in a bit, but as far as like underrated players I'm interested in watching, maybe could this be like a Caleb Jackson type breakout game if they give him 10 carries? Like,
Save
that
it
would
for
be
your
fun.
MVP talk here. Save it for your
I
game
wasn't gonna
ball.
pick him. I was just throwing it out there.
Well, I will say too, talking, and we know all about the LSU offense. It is still ranked number 1 in total yards. Jayden Daniels still has more total yards than any player in the country. He's got the second most rushing yards of any quarterback behind Thomas Castellanos at Boston College. So Logan Diggs, who isn't playing, has been a top 3 running back in the SEC. Neighbors and Thomas still lead the nation in pretty much receiving and touchdown, sitting in the top 5. I think Neighbors still might be number 1 in receiving yards. But
Mhm.
when looking at this Florida team, Matty B, one thing that jumps out that I kind of like to take a glance at each week is turnover margin. And while their turnover margin isn't terrible at all, I think that They are, well, it's not great. They're -2 on the year. For instance, LSU's +5. Well, LSU has gained 11 turnovers. They have turned it over 6 times. They threw 4 picks and fumbled it twice, but still +5 in the margin. That's second best in the, or third best, second best in the SEC, tied with Tennessee. Point being, Florida's defense has only gained 6 turnovers on the year. That's the worst in the SEC. It's below Vandy. Um, it's below everybody. It's the worst in the SEC.
Yeah.
But by contrast, they don't turn it over a ton. They've played what, 9 games? They've turned it over 8 times. So a little less than a turnover a game, but puts them at -2 on the year. So a team that protects the ball for the most part. I mean, Graham Mertz has only thrown a couple of picks this year. He's thrown 17 touchdowns. So he does a good job of protecting it. They hold on to it, but they don't force a lot of turnovers either. So it puts you behind the 8 ball when you're facing a much more talented offense, when it would benefit you greatly if you were like, oh, we're a team that gets out there and grabs a couple picks a game or gets a pick and a fumble a game. And that's just not who Florida's been this year.
Yeah. Graham Mertz has had kind of a revelation coming over from Wisconsin. When Florida took him in the portal, I remember, kind of myself and everybody else was like, all right, you got Wisconsin's quarterback that was completing like 57% of his passes and was very average in the Big Ten. Well, this year I've been pleasantly surprised with how efficient he's been, completing 75% of his passes. Even if you say, the yards per attempt isn't great, he's still at 8.1 yards per attempt, which isn't terrible. But yeah, 17 touchdowns to 2 picks. And it's an offense that, unlike last year with Anthony Richardson, Florida was running the ball, I think 55, 56% of the time last year, one of the most in the SEC. This year, they're throwing the ball 55, 56% of the time. So that is a complete flip, and that's because you can trust Graham Mertz to make the right decision. I've been fairly impressed with this Florida offense because of Mertz, and Brian Kelly raved about Mertz. He remembers recruiting him out of high school and, you know, saying this is the player that he saw out of high school more so than the one at Wisconsin where he was, maybe struggling a bit more. So yeah, I have Grant Mertz. They have Ricky Pearsall on the outside, who we all remember that crazy one-handed catch where he just went up and made it. So he's a playmaker. And then a lot of their guys have done their damage in the short yardage stuff. They're underneath routes. So if I told you going into this game, Florida likes some simple underneath routes and making, the secondary tackle, and then they can run the ball for 5, 6 yards per carry with their two good running backs. To me, as a guy who covers LSU and has watched LSU's defense not be able to tackle and not be able to stop the run consistently, that's concerning. That's concerning. So that's why I go into this saying, all right, LSU's offense is fine, but now can LSU's defense? I don't love this matchup for them.
I think the good thing here is that LSU's just a better team, so they'll be able to score
Yeah.
a bunch. One thing I would note too, Florida has put themselves in the top half of the SEC in total offense. They are not bottom of the barrel. They can move the ball, but, and here's a stat that I think often matters, they're bottom of the SEC. They've only scored 31 touchdowns this year, and they are in the upper half of the SEC in field goals. They've got 15. So it's one of those things where, yeah, they move the ball during games, but they have trouble making that 7 points and not 3. And that's an
I,
issue.
Yeah, I will say they're not explosive. They're not, obviously, like I said, that Pearsall's the only one on the team that averages over, I think, was it 12 yards per reception? Or something that's crazy sad like that. So they're not explosive. I will say, they're usually solid. They have a lot of trips to the red zone. Here's what I'll say. They have a lot of trips to the red zone, and they've actually scored touchdowns on 25 of 36 of them. So that's a good efficiency. But when you have to consistently sustain drives like that, consistently get to the 20, get to the 10, get to the end zone, it's hard when you're not getting those easy. Like we saw it last year with LSU's offense, right? They were consistently in the red zone. They were great red zone offense, but at a certain point, it's like, man, can we get a big play? Can we get an explosive play to open this up? And that's kind of where Florida's offense is this year, where they don't have that explosive play that just, makes life easy. And so Mertz is having to hit underneath routes, check downs, run a lot of third downs. They get to the red zone a lot. They finish a good amount, but sometimes they don't. So that's a kind of interesting game you play there. The hope for LSU obviously is you don't give up those explosive plays and make them drive the field, make them work.
Yeah, and when you talk about Florida's receivers, Matty B, Ricky Pearsall's the guy. He's your veteran, leads the team in catches. He's got 773 yards in the year. Um, you notice a big chunk of that is a really impressive 14 yards per catch. Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors are at 17, but they're just otherworldly.
Yeah.
But Pearsall only 4 touchdowns on the year. That's a low mark. That's Kyron Lacey has 4 touchdowns on the year, for instance. So even their leading receiver is not someone who's getting into the end zone a ton. He'll get you 85, 100 a game, but only half the games is he actually scoring. And then it drops off to some freshmen, really. Eugene Wilson has been good, 45 catches, but 416 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's Kyron Lacey range right there. I mean, Lacey only has 18 catches, but he has almost 400 yards. And then they've dumped it off a good bit to the tight end, who is also a freshman Arlis Boardingham. He's got all 9 games, but 23 catches, 268 yards, 4 touchdowns. For instance, Mason Taylor has 23 for 208 and 1. They haven't needed to use Mason as much down in the red zone because they are explosive and they often score and not need to get in the red zone. But they do have a tight end that can catch some footballs and move the chains for them.
Last thing on this Florida offense for me, running back. Well, as I mentioned, their backs. Montrell Johnson still there, still averaging 5.2 yards per carry on 106 totes this year, and Trevor Etienne 6 yards per carry, very explosive. Both of them have 4 rushing touchdowns this year. So that's in a game where after a game where Alabama, I think Alabama kind of wore down LSU's defense to a degree. I mean, they scored regardless, but in the run game specifically, kind of wore them down where Roydell Williams came in the second half, ripped off 9 yards per carry. This is going to be key. If LSU can slow down the run game, I think then it's going to be an easy win for LSU. But if not, then you open the door for, all right, we're in a shootout. And, don't love that situation for LSU. Like you said, LSU is the better team here, should be able to win by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think that too, a storyline that hasn't been talked about a ton this week, but you mentioned their 2 running backs. Quick quiz, Matty B. Where are they from? What state are they from?
From the boot.
They are from the boot. Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne are Louisiana boys. Obviously, Etienne went to Florida from the start. Montrell went from the Raging Cajuns and followed Napier over to Florida. So I asked Napier this week kind of about that, and he was asked a couple times on the teleconference about coming back to Louisiana, and he said, look, we've got Montrell and Trevor who are hyped to get back there and be able to play in Tiger Stadium, obviously, and then as Louisiana natives, they'll have family in the building. But then remember, look, Napier was a guy that some fans wanted for this job here. And obviously he did an amazing job at UL and Lafayette and brought a lot of guys over there who have LSU ties. Jabbar Jaluk worked here. And then look, is their running backs coach, even on staff. Corey Raymond, their DB coach, he played here. Rob Sale, their O-line coach, he played here at LSU. They have Jake LaFrance, who runs operations for Florida, graduated from LSU and cut his roots here with Frank Wilson. So there are a lot, because of Napier and that UL staff going over there, there's a lot of ties to Louisiana between people on staff, people on the field. That does that ultimately sway the outcome of the game? No. But certainly they're coming into this one with some extra juice of like, hey, we're going back to Louisiana. Let's not embarrass ourselves. Let's put on a show.
Yeah, so that is an interesting aspect of this game. Let me make sure there's nothing else before we jump to
Florida line's been fine. I mean, like I think they want more from them. They've really Napier talked about wanting more from the run game, and they have split Montrell and Trevor down the middle. Maybe one thing we should note, Matty B, is that when you look at Florida's top receivers, it goes wide receiver, that's expected. Then it goes tight end. Then you get into this even mix of receivers and running backs. And Jalen Milroe, when he wasn't running, their biggest pass plays came on dumping it off to the running backs. And is that something that Florida sees and tries to take advantage of this week because it worked for Alabama a week ago? Does Trevor Etienne and Montrell Johnson get some catches this week? And both those guys this year have Montrell Johnson's caught more than 23 balls. Trevor
Yeah.
Etienne's caught 15. So they will throw it to him.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that goes back to what I was saying about some of the underneath stuff and tackling and not being able to not allowing these 5-yard gains to turn into 25-yard gains. That's going to be, in my opinion, the difference between Florida scoring 21 points and scoring 41 points. So that's going to be huge. I remember the last thing I was going to talk about was the secondary for LSU. We haven't talked about them at all because against Alabama, you noticed them, but I didn't think they were awful or they were great. They were on either end of the spectrum, so we didn't really talk about them while Jalen Milroe was running around. But I assume it'll be Toviano and Chestnut, or I'm sorry, not Chestnut, Toviano and a Sage again on the outside.
Yes.
I, I mean
I
Stamps. I
don't
do
think
think
I
they'll
think
work
the
Stamps in
starting
as well.
group is going to look like it did last week.
Yeah, and I think they'll work Stamps in as well.
And you're without Wingo, you're without Zay Alexander. Those guys they're not going to play anytime
Yeah.
soon. So Wingo done for the year, probably Alexander done for a bit, and this is kind of what you're moving forward with. But Toviano, shout out to him, played well on the road.
Yeah.
Was out there for tons of snaps and had to move from safety to corner as a freshman, true freshman, to do it. So salute to him. He became the 5th freshman to start a game for LSU this year. So good on JV and Toviano.
Yeah. All right, we got an ad read.
Yeah, we do. You know what the ad read is. It's game time, and we're back home in Tiger Stadium. Game time is the only ticketing app you need. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code TIGERS. That's obviously TIGERS. $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code TIGERS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app. It's in all the app stores. You get if you need last minute tickets, you can wait. If you're that type that says, "Hey, they'll drop all the way until game time. I'll get us in, honey. Don't worry about it. We don't have seats yet, but we will." Game time has you covered. They bail you out of those marital issues that you could run into or friendship issues you could run into. Whether it is, again, we say it, music, comedy, theater, all of that, sports. We've talked Saints, Pelicans. I'm going to snatch up some Pels tickets. Maddie B, we got to go to a Pels game
They
this year.
do.
I don't know if the Spurs play the Pels
They do.
in
They
New
do.
Orleans.
They do. At some point.
We're going to use game time.
There you go.
So save your $20 for then. But flash deals, like I said, last minute tickets, easy to find. I love that you get to see the image of your seat view every time. Click on it, make sure you're not being blocked by some pole or you can't even see the field, whatever it is. Don't get stuck up in the nosebleeds. And they have that lowest price guarantee. They have event cancellation. Everything you need, they've got on Game Time. As always, I'll give you the deal of the week.
There we
I'm
go.
on the Game Time app right now. I'm on LSU, Florida. I'm looking at the map. There are tickets all over the place here. Flash deals running. You can be in the lower bowl. In fact, you can be in 301
301.
which would be on the east side, visitor side of the stadium. Looks like 4 rows up for $84. So if you have not gotten a chance to sit down low, this might be your weekend for a big SEC game. Take advantage of it now. All over the lower bowl, I'm looking at $68, $62. And what I love about Game Time too is no hidden fees. You're going to get there, check out, and the price is what you expect. You're not going to pay up did I accidentally add another ticket? No, you didn't. That's just how much they're charging you in fees and everything else.
Convenience
Game
fee,
Time hits
service
you
fee.
straight up with it.
Yeah. All the
Game
fees.
Time app. Promo code Tigers, TIGERS, $20 off. Go to the Florida game for cheap. Root on the Tigers.
There you go.
Or if you're a Florida fan driving over and you don't have tickets yet, look, good luck, good fortune for you. They're all over the place. So you'll get in for cheap.
Honey, don't worry. Shea told me
We're
I
going to
can
get
pull
in.
up and we're gonna
Yeah.
get it into the Game Time app. Don't worry, honey.
Yep.
There
You'll be
you go.
fine.
Shea told
And
me.
wireless, you'll be fine with your service on campus. You'll be good. You can get if you're pushing it to the last minute, that's what Game Time's for.
Yeah. If you have any problems, call Shea. Shea will
Call Shay, and then I will get on Game Time for you. Get the tickets, send them over to you under your email, and you'll be good to go.
There you go. Well, we care about y'all. We care about the LSU fans. watching this
Well, I
podcast.
just don't want to see anyone's marriage end because they promised they had the tickets lined up and they didn't. And that's why you
That would
should
be
just be on the Game Time app.
that would be pretty bad. That would be pretty bad. All right. Game balls, MVPs. I don't know I forgot what we call it, but do you have yours ready?
I mean, yeah, I
Okay.
stay ready so I don't have to get ready.
Okay. Well,
Where do you want me to start?
offense.
Okay, offense. I'm picking Josh Williams. I think that with no Logan Diggs, that they go to the most trusted person that they have on this roster in terms of blocking and running and holding on to the football. Josh Williams is a veteran. He's obviously played well across multiple years for LSU. Logan Diggs has taken over as the lead back this year. We do know that. But Josh Williams still very trustworthy. He can get it done. He can get you yardage. And do not forget that a year ago against Florida, when LSU won 45-35 in the swamp, he went for 14 and 106, averaging 7.6 a carry. He had that monster 50-yard run, caught a pass. I think he's a guy they lean on this week. So offense, Josh Williams at running back.
I mean, and if we remember, even 2 years ago, Ty Davis Price rushing all over him. So in theory, taking a running back, I think, is a pretty good pick here in this game. Um, I think Jayden Daniels throws for 400 yards. So give me Jayden Daniels.
Hello. All right. I'll let you have Jayden this week. Okay, so
Thank
you're going Jayden. I'll go
Because
Josh Williams.
if you would have taken Jayden, I was gonna figure out which receiver I was gonna take. Even though obviously I think the running back is a good pick because Josh Williams could end up with like, you know, 70 and 2 touchdowns, which would be really good. But yeah, I just think he throws for a ton of yards. This defense is not good. So give me Daniels.
All right, I'll let you go first on defense.
All right, defense. We've gone to the Harold Perkins well a lot, and they, you know, he makes plays, but he's not usually the player of the game. I'd say, who was the player of the game against Alabama on defense? Greg Penn. Greg Penn, right?
I'd say probably Penn if you're having to pick somebody, play the
Yeah,
best.
yeah. Give me just give me Harold Perkins.
You want Harold Perkins? That's okay. I think that's a smart bet.
Gonna keep
Leads the
scratching.
team in
So,
tackles for loss with 9. Still
yeah.
leads the team in sacks with 4. And lead well, what 5 pass breakups, 4 quarterback
Here,
hurries, the most
here I
forced fumbles
can.
on the team with 2.
Yeah,
He still is he can
schematically.
stack the stat sheet, even though he's in a little bit different of a role in the same linebacker role, but I like the pick.
Yeah, I
Um,
think this game also kind of sets up well for him because of Florida's reliance on the short yardage stuff. Maybe maybe they throw some screens at him. Maybe they try to throw some running back stuff to him, and I think you can just blow it up. So we could be looking at a game where he has a couple TFLs and like 8 tackles, and he's kind of just everywhere. It feels like he's everywhere on the field.
I'm gonna go with oh boy. I'm going Braden Swinson. I think that Braden Swinson has evened out his playing time with Ovie Gofu as a jack linebacker, that stand-up edge rusher. His stats have been very solid this season, and if it gets to a point where Florida's having to throw the football and can't rely on the run, then I think that he becomes more valuable. I nearly picked Andre Sam here, but I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go with a backup, someone who doesn't even start. I'll go Braden Swinson, 4.5 tackles for a loss on the year. He's got a sack, he's got some pass breakups, but leads the team coming off the bench with 7 quarterback hurries. So if LSU can get up and Florida's got to throw the football, I think he's the type of guy that can put some pressure on a Graham Mertz. So give me the transfer and the non-starter, Braden Swinson.
All right, special teams. I don't know if we've really hit on one to this point. I I don't think I just don't think Bramblett punts very much. I don't think he has to punt. I don't even think Greg Clayton is gonna have to return a ton. Trying to think. Diaper out the end zone would be nice. I think we're both just gonna have to take Ramos here, right?
Yep. I'm taking Ramos. These Florida LSU games, quite often you can just throw out the record books and it comes down to something crazy. We've seen it all from a shoe toss to fake field goals and everything else. I will go with Ramos because just in case this is a tight game, they'll need him to hit some field goals. So he is my safe bet of the week. Give me Ramos over 1.5 field goals.
Okay. All
Which
right, ready?
actually, I don't even know if that matches up with my score prediction. So,
Yeah, it's all right. It's all
all right.
it's all in theory. All right,
A score
predictions.
prediction, huh?
Yep, predictions.
Okay, so what did I give you?
That's what I'm trying to. What did you text me? What score did you text me?
Yeah.
Let me see. I don't even remember what mine was. You said 38-27 LSU.
Yeah, so that maybe my Ramos 1.5 over field goals wouldn't hit in that scenario. But I do think I think LSU can get to 40. I think this is a game that the over-under is sitting around 66 or so. LSU's been smashing overs all season. I am not too worried about Daniels being banged up. The spread is 15. So yeah, I'm in that 38-24 range. Maybe Florida covers. If not, then LSU can get an extra field goal and maybe win like 41-24. But I'll write down 38-24 as my score. I think LSU wins comfortably.
I am the closest of all three of us, by far. Billy has this as I think a 27-point win for LSU. So I am the
I have
closest.
14. I have 14, which is under the spread. That'd be Florida covering.
Yes. Yeah, the spread is up to 15 now. So yeah, that would be that's interesting line movement. But anyways, I do have the close result. I was even closer before I tweaked my score a little bit, but I have LSU 49, Florida 38. I think both teams just score the ball. I'm done. I'm done trying to believe in either of these defenses really, but obviously LSU's defense holding it down. I mean, Arkansas scored 31. I think this Florida offense is just as good, if not better. Missouri. I mean, we don't have to rehash all the scores, but I think Florida gets 5 touchdowns in this game, and I think LSU is comfortable enough that they win by double digits, but I don't think it's a comfortable win in terms of winning this game by 3 scores. I don't trust LSU's defense to do that because this is an offense that is balanced enough, is efficient enough to score the ball, and LSU against those teams has not shown any life, pulse, propensity to get a stop. And so I think LSU's offense rolls, but I think the defense struggles again. And I have the over in this game, obviously, but yeah, 49-38.
A refresher in the games, Florida State and then the SEC games, LSU's given up 45 to Florida State, 14 to Mississippi State, 31 to Arkansas, 55 to Ole Miss, 39 to Missouri, 18 to Auburn, and 42 to Alabama. So pretty much the good offenses have shredded them and the bad ones have scored 14 to 20 points.
Yeah. So
And Florida's probably somewhere in the middle of that. So
yeah. So we'll see. But that's my prediction. That'll be up on our site with our full write-ups. We'll have our final lines play out today as well. We're up to 5-4 on the year. Honestly, with how last week went, Shay, I should have counted that for like 3 different wins. But it was only one result. The
okay.
Jayden Daniels rushing prop cashed easily. The over cashed as well, which was going to be my play, but
Yeah,
you
that
know.
might have cashed after like 2 drives.
So, yeah, no, it almost did. I remember texting my friend. I was like, "Yeah, well, he's at like 59, and we're in the first quarter, so I think you
Yeah.
should be safe."
The
Yeah, that'll be out as well.
Yeah, and big recruiting weekend. We've got the visitor lists up, more coming on the Bengal Tiger. Full coverage of the game. Me and Maddie B will be there. Then we'll bring you the post game pod with our instant reactions on Saturday night. And then Sunday, we will be heavy on recruiting reactions of how everybody thought the game went. They're going to have a lot of guys in. Remember, right now, Bengal Tiger, $1 to join. Go to thebengaltiger.com, $1. You get access to everything we do and access to the entire On3 network. So shout out to everyone who's joined. And if you're here on the YouTube page and you've given us some subscribe and you've liked our stuff, we spend our whole day on thebengaltiger.com. So for $1, come hang out with us and check it out.
Literally. Yes, literally. But yeah, thank y'all for joining us. Leave us a 5-star rating or review wherever you're listening. If you're watching on YouTube, like Shay said, we appreciate y'all for subscribing. Leave a comment, let us know what you think. More of y'all have, gotten into the comments, so that helps us out, and we appreciate that. But subscribe to Bengal Tiger and come talk to us over there. That's where we reply a lot more. So yeah, we'll be back after the game, and until then, y'all be safe this weekend, and we'll talk to y'all later.